Hello, everybody. I'm John Lind, lead programmer of BB Digital Lab LLC, and you're listening to or watching the BB&J podcast. So, if you know me in person, you'll probably know that I'm a big fan of history. I love learning about things and just seeing like how people from a completely different time and place made things work. And guess what? People have been selling and buying things for thousands of years now, and even if they didn't have official positions that of what would be considered now, they had marketing. People marketed their products. So first, I want to talk about what I mean when I say marketing, just to clarify, because a lot of times if you look up like history of marketing, it'll start in like the 40s or 50s and most of the 30s. But what I'm talking about is marketing practice rather than marketing thought. So marketing thought is these theories, almost like the philosophies of marketing, how you approach it, how you target people. It is kind of more of a Western idea in its creation, and it's trying to understand the theory and the principles by which marketing functions, right? So we've had a lot of evolution of that over time, even over these 70 years that marketing thought has existed. However, marketing practice has been going on for pretty much as old as civilization. Because if you're selling a product, you need to be marketing it. People need to know what product you're selling, or especially if you're selling a service. And guess what? People were doing that. So the first thing that you see in a lot of different cultures, it kind of seems like it evolved on its own in several different places, is logos and branding. So when you get a civilization of any kind, you start getting the need for quality control. If I'm getting fish or chopsticks or needles, Tupperware, anything in between, I need to know that it's a quality product. I need to understand that what I'm getting is consistent with what I bought before. So, you could go out and you could buy any car from any brand, but are you going to be getting the same quality? No. Similarly, 10,000 years ago, if someone's buying a vase or a clay pot, they want to make sure that they're getting a quality product. And how was this done? Well, if you don't have a way to, write these long editorials or, even write in these pre-literate societies, they used logos. So if I'm buying from Roger Fish Packing, I know that I'm buying from them because they're going to have the branding and their logo on their products that they send me. But also, I know that there's going to be that consistency, because if I'm continually buying from Robert Fish Packing and they consistently sell a good product, then I'm even more inclined to buy it. These things haven't changed that much over the however long they've been going on. But the first distinct evidence we have is of marketing of any sort is branding and logos in Mesopotamia. And that certainly did not go away. In fact, it is a global phenomenon and has been ever since there was a need for large-scale trade. So you see this definitely in Mesopotamia first for thousands of years, starting in about 1500 BCE. But you also see it in China, you see it in India, you see it across Europe, Africa. So I personally, I'm a big fan of the Incan Empire. I think they're so cool. Well, they didn't have a writing system. However, they had a way of labeling their goods and products that they were shipping around to indicate what it was. So even though they were a pre-literate society, they were still, a large-scale society. They needed to know what things were. They needed to have that degree of, quality control, and that I guess you could call like the government seal, not quite the FDA, not quite the Consumer Protection Bureau or whatever it's called. But that quality control is, I mean, as I said, it's extremely important for the government, but also it's important for consumers, and it's valuable for consumers. There's this saying, I think most of us have heard it: the customer is always right. What that refers to is what the customer buys, what the customer values, is what you should sell them, right? So this has been going on forever. And if a customer is shown to consistently value something, then you keep going at it, right? Logos and branding, just as they were to people, 2,500 years ago, are still important now. So there's this idea of something being time tested. If you don't think having a good logo is important, it is the most time tested marketing thing. As in, we can go and see people using logos effectively. That's the key thing. This has been tested for thousands of years. They've been used effectively. And all of these things, like if it's been used for thousands of years in terms of marketing, it probably has some validity, And the thing about these pre-literate societies is not a lot necessarily got saved in terms of what we understand of marketing. So, if they had someone on the street corner advertising a certain product, well, we're probably not going to know about that unless they did a painting of it. And I do not believe that there's any paintings of, people going door to door selling dictionaries in ancient Rome. But we do have this thing that's been saved all this time, which is logos. And there was this famous fish packer, not fish packer, but guy involved with fish products. He ran several different kinds of businesses, all related to fish, out of Pompeii. And at his home, he had it was like fish oil by this guy, fish products by the same guy, and refer specifically saying like these quality products from me, essentially. If you look at there's some ancient Chinese texts that have been saved. Very fascinating, because if you hear them, they sound like normal ads. They sound like modern ads. But these things are like 1,000, 2,000 years old. I think there was one that was advertising needles. So it said, hey, you can, sell your metal rods, and we'll make sure that you can sell your metal rods to us and buy our needles that are ready to be taken and used at home the first day, or something like that. So the marketing and targeting your audience, addressing their concerns. I mean, clearly the concern was like, okay, I take the needle home, but can I use it that day? They're saying, you can use our needles the day of, the day you buy it. Like, I mean, that doesn't really connect with us, but there's a 1,500 year gap. So the messaging it's clear, has always been important, addressing what the customer specifically needs. That is marketing. That research, understanding what customers are looking for, I mean, is ancient. It's one of the most important things for having a successful business, and it always has been. The final thing I'd like to talk about, because I think it's pretty cool, and you see this in combination with the kind of like unseen history of a lot of buildings, is you sometimes you hear about the graffiti and learning about things like ancient slang of how they described things, and it's so fascinating. You kind of get these snapshots of what people cared about or what ticked people off, But something you saw a lot, both as paintings on buildings, or like hung up signs on buildings in high traffic areas. Doesn't that sound kind of familiar? Is advertisements for companies. You see this in Egypt, you see this in Rome, you see this in Greece, you see this in China. This is all over the world, been going on for a very long time. And it's that certain concept, right? There's a high traffic area. So why don't we have an advertisement that a lot of people are going to see a lot of the time? It's these billboards before billboards. This was important. You see them now. I mean, you even see advertisements on the side of the buildings still. I think some of my favorite ones are like they're almost like murals, but they incorporate the brand. Those can be really cool. And normally you see those on the sides of the businesses themselves, but you can see those. I mean, the most obvious example is in actual billboards, but people aren't walking around as much. The high traffic areas aren't sidewalks, they're roads. People are driving up and down this road all the time. And you're going to get a high volume of people, literally high traffic area. So billboards fill that role. They're the modern evolution. Not only that, I mean, you see the banner ads, the side scrolling ads on sites. What's the concept? It's the same idea. High traffic areas where people are going to be looking. So if they're on a page, they're going to be looking and they're going to see your ad on the sides of the page, right? That's how you reach your audience. So people figured this out a really long time ago. I mean, I'm pretty sure that it was around before. We just don't have the evidence. You can only date it so far back. But these proto billboards, these billboards before billboards, are another example of something that, like, it's lasted so long. You have to think. I mean, at the very least, the principle by which it worked still works with all of these things. The reason that I think it's important to understand history is oftentimes not necessarily the exact technology or the exact application, but the principle by which these approaches, both to marketing and just dealing with human psychology, worked, still work. Branding, an effective logo, still works. I mean, I always think of, the Amazon logo. It's at first it's like, oh, it's a smile, but it's also the arrow, the shipping, and there's even the colors were heavily focus tested of like, what are the most engaging colors? People weren't necessarily focus testing logos in ancient Mesopotamia in the same way we think of it now. But these things, logos and branding, have existed forever. Advertising, banner ads, billboards, whatever you may call them, have existed forever. So understanding what's worked for a really long time shows you and critically, what works across cultures shows you these basic fundamental things that work for human beings. So that's I think the biggest takeaway of all this history means these things work. So I'd like to leave you with that. Thank you so much for listening and watching. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I genuinely appreciate your comments. Like when you guys comment on the videos, especially if it's suggestions, but even if it's like, hey, good video, like we appreciate that immensely, because we want to know what you think of it. So keep it up, keep commenting, making your suggestions, your hopefully constructive criticism. We appreciate it. And I hope to see you reach your eyes and or ears next week. Thank you.